Hi, this is wright. I'm going to be arguing the attachment of responsibility to a person after behavior change. Um, so, my favorite TV show growing up was called Cold Case. It was a reenactment of real cases where persons who committed crimes were never identified and the trail went cold. Of course, for the sake of drama and TV shows, these cases were always involved with serious crimes like murder and or big theft. And in real life, cold cases are the same thing, except for they can be a range of cases. And normally, they really only are looked into after or afterwards when new evidence comes up and things like that that resurges if the case is of a serious nature. This is usually after a period of many years of 10, 15, sometimes 30, 40, sometimes even 50 years. Even longer than that, but the principle is the same. Many years have passed by of this person who might have committed, and several times this has actually happened, might have committed a crime back in the past when they were very young or very stupid, or sometimes deranged. They have since sought help, but were never convicted. And when they are found out and they are charged with the crime as though they committed it yesterday. In this paper, I will argue that even though a person can change, the same person who committed these actions must be responsible for these actions. Beginning with a brief synopsis of this situation, we see that Michelle, she was a big jerk. She heads off to the mountains and takes off, comes back, says she can't remember, and we ask ourselves, should she take responsibility? There are many things to be discussed here, like whether she is the same person as she used to be. Should the same person be charged with responsibility who committed those crimes, even if they changed? And we will be discussing that briefly in this argument. So my argument is premise one: a person is the same person until they die, regardless of changes in their behavior and appearance. I'm going to be taking Charles Daniels' view on personality and the effect of self without memories. For every action, there is a consequence, premise two. Premise three: the same person who commits an action should be responsible for their actions and consequences. I'm going to be taking the ideas from Kant on this one. And premise four: if Michelle hasn't died, tying this into the scenario to be analyzed, but her behavior changes. So we're using this as a premise just to set and make sure we say that this is an assumed fact in our argument. And therefore, our conclusion: Michelle is being the same person because she hasn't died, because she is the same timeline, must therefore be responsible for her actions and consequences. So let's talk about Charles Daniels' idea about a person. He said that memory doesn't matter. It only matters if you're the same person, and basically his limits were from birth till death. Are you the same person? If you die, you're no longer that person. We don't know what happens after that. And his idea was saying that if you scanned yourself and cloned yourself, that clone technically would not be you because you're still alive. You can still feel yourself. You know that you're you, and that clone might think it's you, but you can obviously tell that you're in a different position, and it was born way after you were. So it might, even though it believes it's you, it's really a lie. For premise two, we talk about every action has a consequence, and Newton said it best: when every action has a reaction. What if Michelle is responsible for causing her amnesia? What if, because of Michelle's actions, that she had to leave? And it was in her leaving and her deciding to leave that made her forget, and actions she took in the mountains and her actions to return that caused the amnesia. And it's because of the consequences of her actions that we're sitting here having this discussion now. If she had never done this, we would have not had to even debate whether or not she should be responsible for her actions. Kant said that for every action you must you own up to it. Basically, if you do an injustice, you should expect everyone to do those injustices if you aren't to take responsibility for it, because everyone should do it. But if everyone shouldn't do that, then you need to take action and you need to take responsibility for those consequences. And Michelle is no different. In premise 4, we're just assuming that she's come back. And we're assuming that what they have said, and assume from the scenario that it's true, that it is Michelle, that she is changing in behavior, but she hasn't died. Nothing's changed from her. It's still the same person. So, should she be responsible? Let's doubt all these premises of which we've talked about. Let's talk about someone famous who's lost their memory. And because many people have lost their memory in many famous works of art and movies and things like that. But someone famous like Jason Bourne, he was a terrible person before. He was an assassin. He killed people even though they didn't deserve it, just to promote a public and political agenda. And yet he becomes a good person after forgetting everything and realizes, hey, I'm a pretty good guy, and he does really good things. He's just trying to be a good guy, and yet people are still trying to kill him, and he remembers nothing of his past. So should he be responsible for his past actions? Another doubt we could talk about, what if all this whole idea of assigning responsibility is stupid because free will is a lie? Everything we've talked about is a lie, and Michelle never had an option to make those choices in the first place. What if Michelle didn't actually do those things, and it was someone else, an evil twin, did all those terrible things to all her friends, and Michelle came back from the mountains, seeing her evil twin, trying to rectify everything and saying, I don't remember doing any of those things because it wasn't me. All these things could be taken into consideration. But in conclusion, of all my premises, I still hold to the fact that Michelle is the same person and that she should be responsible for her actions, even though there are many doubts, and those doubts could be true. If the premises of my argument are true, I would hold that my conclusion is also true, and Michelle should take responsibility. I feel that I've also shown that if Michelle is responsible for her actions, it might have been her actions that led up to this point. And again, she should take responsibility. These are my works cited from IMDb, and several works by Professor Watson, Rice University, and Charles Daniels. Thank you for listening. My name's wright, and I was arguing the attachment of responsibility to a person after behavior change. Thank you.